What's up, everybody? Welcome to Global Climbing Day 2020. This is the fourth year for Global Climbing Day, and arguably probably the most interesting, dynamic, difficult year. Every year, as part of the North Face's Walls Are Meant for Climbing campaign, we ask gyms around the world to join us in working to lower the barriers to entry in climbing. While we can't meet physically this year, the goal remains the same. Celebrate the community we love and the ways in which climbing can be a tool to create a more inclusive and equitable world. This Global Climbing Day, we're celebrating leaders pushing for change and engaging the climbing community in a series of real conversations about accessibility, inclusivity, and the future of climbing. We'll have 3 conversations today interspersed with some incredible videos that highlight the work that's being done from these organizations and others around the world. Let's jump into our first conversation, which is with Memphis Rocks and Climb Malawi. Memphis Rocks and Climb Malawi are 2 not-for-profit organizations and climbing gyms in very different parts of the world. Both are working to engage and support their local communities through the climbing gym. Today we have Tyler from Climb Malawi, and we have Malik and John from Memphis Rocks with us. Welcome guys. Super stoked to have you here. Thanks for joining us on this really important climbing day.
Thanks for having us.
So I'd like to do a little bit of introduction, just briefly with each of you about, maybe a little bit about your personal background and climbing, and then we'll go from there. How about Tyler? Why don't you just give us a little bit of background about your personal climbing and just kind of quickly what led you to Malawi?
Sure. Thanks for having me. We're really excited to participate today. I'm originally from Canada. I started climbing in 2011, and the impetus was really to build community, actually. I had moved to Ireland at the time and was looking for ways to build community, and it kind of became my de facto way of making new friends whenever I moved to a new place. So I've been doing that since 2011, and it's become kind of the big passion of my life. My wife and I always wanted to work in Africa. We had done very extensive work before in various countries in Africa. And so in 2018, my wife finished her residency as a doctor and got an excellent job in Malawi. And that's what took us over there while I was consulting from kind of more of an engineering background.
Cool. Thanks. Wow. Really interesting. Malik, my brother from South Memphis, from Soulsville.
What's up, Sam? What's up, world? Thank y'all for being here with us. For those who don't know me, I am Malik the Martian. I am a up-and-coming outdoors adventure photographer by the way of Memphis Rocks. The way I came into climbing is if you look in the John's window, right behind them, there's a wonderful thing called Memphis Rocks. And in 2018, that's when I was introduced to the outdoors in a different manner than camping. Since then, I've grown in affinity for climbing. It has impacted my life and career. And it's just amazing to consistently challenge myself in a different way. I'm glad that Memphis Rocks is here to do it.
Thanks, bud. And John, why don't you tell us, how you got into climbing, how you sort of got into climbing gym work, and how you ended up at Memphis Rocks?
Cool. I started climbing back in 2004. Some weird stuff going on in my life. Kind of had an empty void, and climbing filled it. I want to say that like the first 10 minutes I was hooked, and then since then I've seen how it kind of helps not only build relationships, but you're able to work on problems and get through life together with your other climbing friends. And it's ultimately what brought me to Memphis Rocks. Was once I heard the mission, I just wanted to help people through climbing and serve. So
Cool. Well, thanks, you guys. So we'll jump right into a series of questions. I think that I'd like to start with Malik. Malik, will you describe the community there in South Memphis? You know, the community of the climbing gym is obviously one component, but then the broader sort of feel and vibe of you know, where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in South Memphis, Tennessee. And 38106 is a zip code, and it's one of the poorest zip codes in America. There's a multitude of things that made it get to that destination, but it is basically an underserved community, but it is a very tight-knit, close community. Because of the lack of resources, people lean on each other a little bit more than in typical life. We all lean on each other. We all network heavy, and it's just very much so close and network and close in many other communities. The gym helps it helps close any gaps between the underserved and resources. That's one thing that Memphis Rocks outside of climbing that we try to do is service the community needs first. And being that I was born and raised there, I know many of the constituents and the people who occupy the neighborhood. And we just always try to keep that close knit. It takes a village mentality to keep this thing going, because a lot of things what we're going to talk about this morning will seem unsustainable when you put everything on one person. But when we look at it as a community, and these are all of our villages, these are all of our children, we can see that many can make it easy, and it's beautiful what can come from that.
Thanks, bud. Hey, John, do you want to follow up from sort of taking what Malik said about the neighborhood and sort of elaborate on why the gym was built there?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want, we wanted to build a gym that was accessible to everyone, and when you think about that, there are, you know, folks from underserved neighborhoods are not going to go to other neighborhoods where climbing gyms are typically built these days. They need underserved and, you know, minorities need to go to places where they feel comfortable, and they walk in the door and they know that they feel comfortable. And you know, a lot of the underserved communities don't have the resource to even have a car. So how are they going to make it to the other side of town? So we were very intentional on building it in their neighborhood, so they can walk here, they can get here, they can eat here, they can do everything that they want right here, and not have to have any other barriers or stress.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, John. Hey, Tyler, how about that same question? Why did you build the gym and create this organization there in Malawi? Why is it there specifically? Stand by, folks. We're just having a little bit of audio difficulties. Let's see if we can get Tyler back on.
Sorry about that. The short answer is that it was built there in Malawi because that's where I was living. I had just moved to Malawi and I built a home wall, and that was really the start of Climb Malawi. We're very much a grassroots organization. And it probably wouldn't have started at all if it wasn't for the work that Memphis Rocks is doing, because I was aware of Memphis Rocks and their model before moving to Malawi. And as you know, more and more people from very diverse backgrounds started to come and visit our climbing wall, and I saw the community opportunities grow and the self-empowerment that was happening for individuals, as well as the relationships that were happening across significant cultural gaps as well as socioeconomic gaps. It seemed like a tremendous opportunity to do something inspired by the donation-based model that Memphis Rocks is leading the charge on.
Oh, that's really cool. So I guess I'll follow up that question, and maybe this is a moment where we can cue one of the videos from Ed. Who is Ed, Tyler? Tell us about him. He's your partner? He's a native Malawian.
Yeah, Ed is one of our program directors. He has got extensive experience guiding groups out on mountain excursions. Most people kind of leaders within the Climb Malawi community are kind of volunteering and have other day jobs. And Ed's background is in water, sanitation, and hygiene within the NGO sector in Malawi. But his side passion has always been getting out into the mountains and taking other people out into the mountains. So when I first met Ed, he was doing a lot of guided camping and hiking trips. And just latched onto climbing and has become kind of one of our major champions, doing a lot of networking, outreaching, building links with other organizations, and taking groups out to the crag.
That's awesome. And I'm psyched that we have these pre-recorded answers to some of the questions today. But I think it's worth mentioning, he didn't have strong enough internet, right, to join us today. And, Malawi, I think I've learned from you, Tyler, is the 5th poorest country in the entire world. We take things like internet for granted here, but Ed couldn't join us today because he can't even get decent enough internet. So do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, just for those who don't know, Malawi is a small country in southeastern Africa. Near Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia are kind of bordering countries. And yeah, the internet quality is spotty at the best of times. We usually have several different networks that we're relying on in case we have to switch from one network to the other. And to make sure things go smooth, we just got him to record some messages for us today.
Cool. So the question that I think we have is, how did you engage your community to bring new climbers into your gym? And I think that we're going to put up now a video from Ed. Is that going up?
Rock climbing is still an alien activity in Malawi, a pursuit reserved for the crazy white fox. To get new climbers, we have got 4 approaches. One, for every pool of new climbers we get, we identify at least one person who we give our special attention in hope that they will bring in new climbers, an ambassador of sort to the different groups of people that we have, both local and foreign. 2, because of the simplicity and affordability of bouldering, we have popularized the sport, and so that we can attract even the poorest among us. All we ever need to make things happen are the shoes, the chalk bags, and the pads which have been donated to our gym from people of goodwill. 3, we have also had dealings with music festivals where we have set up a small wall in order to showcase ourselves. And lastly, we have a Guyenda volunteer program which brings in new climbers, especially those who cannot afford to pay membership. Rock climbing is still an alien activity in Malawi, a pursuit reserved for the crazy white fox. To get new climbers, we have got 4 approaches. One, for every pool of new climbers we get, we identify at least one person who we give our special attention in hope that they will bring in new climbers, an ambassador of sort to the different groups of people that we have, both local and foreign. 2, because of the simplicity and affordability of bouldering, we have popularized the sport, and so that we can attract even the poorest among us. All we ever need to make things happen are the shoes, the chalk bags, and the pads which have been donated to our gym from people of goodwill. 3, we have also had dealings with music festivals where we have set up a small wall in order to showcase ourselves. And lastly, we have a Guyenda volunteer program which brings in new climbers, especially those who cannot afford to pay membership.
Okay, so we just to emphasize Ed's importance, we decided to run that twice. But it's really cool to have him here and participate with us that way. And I think I'd be stoked to have Malik kind of take that same question. Malik, how does Memphis Rocks engage the community to try to bring new people into the building, either for climbing or anything else?
So the thing, like a lot of times, especially during this time, diversity and inclusion is something that the whole industry is pushing. And when we initially brought the gym to South Memphis, rock climbing was a foreign concept to my community. There are no rocks in Memphis, not even boulders. You know, you can like throw one chunk, break some glass or something, but not something to climb. And to get people excited about climbing and to actually get the community to come into the gym, we had to go into the community. We handed out flyers. We went to local corner stores with a dude standing on the corner. We interacted with them and let them know that this was a service there for them. It was a resource there for them. And just overall, it's a safe space that even if you aren't into climbing, come check it out. Come hang out for a day. You know, use some Wi-Fi. Come in, get some air one day. Come get a smoothie and a break from the heat one day. We just had to show the community what we had to offer. A lot of times you're gonna hear these discussions going on nowadays. And how can we get more minorities involved? You have to go get them, make them feel comfortable, and like bring them into your organization, your gym, or whatever have you, to the outdoors. There's a gap. We all can acknowledge there is a gap. And we all have to ask ourselves, what can we do to bridge that gap? Whether it be on an individual basis, someone that you know personally that you bring into the fold, and or you have an organization or something that can actually go out and recruit people. It's no different from when we came into hiring. A lot of times when you walk into a climbing gym, you won't see too many minority staff members. And if you walk into Memphis Rocks, the vast majority of our staff comes from South Memphis. Walk to work. That means that like we literally intentionally set out to hire from the community. Not to be biased to anyone else, but if it's a communal resource and a job opportunity, we would like the people who live in there to be able to benefit from it. And we purposefully reached out to the community to bring them in. And I suggest everyone has that power. And it's just a little uncomfortable at times because, it's some difference between, different groups. But once you start talking, all that melts away and we're all human. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks, Malik. One thing that strikes me, and I don't know, maybe John, you can touch on this, like the gym employs like more than 2 or 3 times the amount of staff that it actually needs to kind of keep people off the streets and in the building and in the safe space. Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have more people per shift than I think any other gym does, but it's not just about like gym operations. I mean, we have different service programs going on all the time. We have to have 3 or 4 people for our after school program. We get hit with about 120 kids a day after school. We have a community closet that people can come get toilet paper and body soap and clothes. So we have 1 or 2 people stationed over there. We've had a produce program. We have a free lunch program. So we have all of these things going on, and sometimes at the same time. So, there will be times where we have 15 people working at once. And I guess that service costs money, right? So we have to all come together and help each other out with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so much more than a climbing gym. Tyler, I'm curious about, how do you engage with the community and try to bring people in and introduce them to climbing when they have no idea what it is or had never thought that it would even exist somewhere near them?
Yeah, as Ed mentioned, there's a few different ways we go about it. We've gone out with flyers as well. When we set up our wall in a new location, We went door to door with flyers and invited everyone to a big barbecue so that they could come check it out. They didn't have to climb; they could climb. At that point, it was really, beneficial that we'd already been operating as sort of a home wall, backyard wall for a while, and had a good cohort of Malawian climbers who could show other Malawians the ropes and make sure that they felt comfortable, and even if somebody wasn't fluent in English, be able to encourage them in Chichewa, the local language. We've also gone out to festivals we built a portable wall to kind of showcase, the event. It can take apart and fit into an SUV. When we go out to the crag, all the rocky areas are near villages and farms. And so we invariably get a large group of youth who follow us around and just watch. And in some cases, we just share our climbing shoes with them. And, I may not speak the same language fluently with anyone, and we're still cheering each other on, trying to challenge ourselves on the rock.
That's cool. It's like a combination of creating the space in one regard, and then really deliberate, intentional outreach.
Yeah.
Like Malik was saying, that can be uncomfortable at times, but just needs to be that effort almost to go out into the communities and to have these conversations that build these relationships. So it's kind of like a layered approach.
And if I can add, one of my lessons learned from doing that recruitment initially was I just focused on kind of the foreign climber versus local Malawian divide when I did my recruitment initially. And what I ended up with was a strong group of Malawian men who are climbing. And if I was to start this over again from the beginning, I would have been much more intentional about trying to recruit Malawian women, because that's still a smaller group than I'd like to see in our community.
So we're kind of nearing the end, I think. One thing that I really want to make time and space for is to hear from each of you all about, what is important, John, what is important about Memphis Rocks to share with the world? Like, what is it that you want people to know about the gym and the surrounding community? Kind of like your strongest feeling and reason for the gym's existence.
I think that climbing gyms, we all say that we're building community, and I think that everybody can do more. And part of community is helping each other and serving each other. So I urge everyone to do more, help people, and let's all help each other as well. I mean, I feel terrible, like we should have. Tyler said that he looked up to our organization, and I feel like we should have worked with him more. And I feel terrible. And Tyler, we will help each other. So let's help our community. Let's help each other in the industry, and if you're not in the industry, help all of these organizations through donations and financial support, because we all need it.
Yeah, it's going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. Just it's not about climbing. Climbing's kind of like the entry point, but you guys have made that the entry point to do all these other very rich and important things for the community. Malik, do you have anything that you want to add? Anything that you want to leave people with about Memphis Rocks, or about Soulsville, or about you and your work?
Yeah, I just want to say that Memphis Rocks, me and my work in Soulsville, are all uniquely connected. I came to Memphis Rocks. I'm a photojournalist. I came to Memphis Rocks to do a story, and I stayed because I saw the potential that the building had. There was not one route on the wall. I personally, I just want to say thank you to Tom and his vision. I want to say thank you to the industry and the brand for bridging the gap between us when we were a young organization. And the first Global Climbing Day in 2018 is when I met Conrad Anchor, and he is now my mentor. And just the purpose and ability to have one chance. You know, a lot of times doors are closed when you're from my neighborhood. You don't have a lot of opportunity. And I started at the front desk of Memphis Rocks, worked my way up to head photographer, and now I'm director of social media. And none of that would have happened if it wasn't for like people like John who gave me a chance to even work there. And I just want to say, you know, thank everyone. If you think anything we've ever done at Memphis Rocks is good, if you like any picture outdoors that I've taken on my expedition with the brand, please become a reoccurring donor. Like, it doesn't have to be much, $1, $5, $10, but it seems insurmountable to keep this going when you put it all on one person. But if we all look at it as it's a village and it takes a village to raise a child, and if Memphis Rocks is our child, or Climb Wally is our child, but we all do our resources, then if you think it's changed my life, what it's done for me, just imagine what these boys can do in years for every kid that comes through there. Or like the representation I get minorities in the industry. Like, there's black kids who walk in and say, I ain't never seen nobody climb and take pictures before. And the first person that they see climb and take pictures is a black man. And that is very heavy. And it is very important work. And I just carry that with me every time I snap the shutter. So I just thank y'all for the time. Follow me on Instagram. It all helps. Malik Martin. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to spread my work as far as possible and get on as many peaks as possible. And I just thank y'all for my time.
Thanks, Malik. You know, that's interesting. And I think we have a couple more videos from Ed, and one of them is about how climbing impacts individuals. And it sounds like, you know, a huge part of your life as it looks now, you know, was impacted by Memphis Rocks and climbing. And I think we should loop in Ed here to hear, you know, what he has to say about how climbing is impacting individuals in Malawi.
From what we have seen, climbing has brought together individuals from different backgrounds and fostered strong bonds of friendships among our climbers, something which never would have happened under any other circumstances. These interactions have transformed our community by breaking barriers and shaping our ideals. More learning and understanding for the local climber who is less traveled. More exposure and recreation for our host communities, and more culture and indigenous knowledge for the expert who is working in Malawi or is just visiting.
Cool. So thanks, Ed, for that. Tyler, I'm curious. You know, we've talked about sort of the obviousness of how a climbing gym or a new climbing community can have some impact, but you know, like John, Malik, and Memphis Rocks, I'm just kind of interested on the less obvious or almost unexpected effects that the gym and your organization has had for the community there in Malawi that you guys are.
Yeah, you know, I think there's several layers of impact that happens with climbing. There's obviously an individual impact that it has on us. And you know, I've seen that with incredibly strong Malawian women who have said after, you know, climbing a few times that they thought of themselves as weak. And like, we're talking multiple pull-ups, like strong ladies who've just climbed for the first time. And they're saying like, you know, now we felt our strength fully for the first time ever. And so, you know, there's an individual level there of impact. And I think climbing and the climbing community fosters an attitude of self-development and self-growth and overcoming challenges. And that builds into a community of support with each other. And I think for Malawi, especially because there is such a big gap between visiting foreign aid workers, as one of the fifth poorest country in the world, a lot of the country relies on NGOs and aid work. And those individuals who work for those organizations probably make more in a week than a lot of Malawians do in a year. And so there's these power dynamics at play, and there's no real place elsewhere in Malawi where people are getting together who might be a farmer and a doctor and having an equal playing field socially, where none of that matters. And that's exactly what we've seen, where we have a Malawian farmer with not the best English, who's got the focused attention of an American surgeon who's learning how to boulder from that Malawian, because he's done it longer than the American. And these exchanges across these gaps are really transformative. Just to give one anecdote, one of my favorite Craig snacks is dried mangoes, and Malawi has a phenomenal mango season. And when we moved there in 2018, we didn't see any dried mangoes. No one was doing any food preservation with that. We started to see a little bit of it as we left, but people I talked to their minds were blown that this thing I had brought Trader Joe's mangoes that were with me, and people went crazy over them and couldn't believe that this stuff could be done, and it could become an income generator. It could be a business. So it's when you mix all these different people together that these ideas for new businesses, for new ways of viewing life, and new ways of approaching challenges that can really transform communities, I believe.
That's really cool. Thank you for those stories. I'd like to shift into another video from Ed, which is, I think, kind of, his message to the world about Climb Malawi and what you guys are doing over there. How, he wants to share the work that you all are doing. So can we cue that one up?
As a young community in a poor country, we rely on donations to keep our work going, and the expertise of seasoned climbers who are not permanent residents of our country to pass on their expertise to our community. Our climbers, they come and go, and we are aware that there is no substitute for learning from professionals. So we want the world to know that climbing is a big thing in Malawi now. And whenever you're passing through, we would very much appreciate you looking us up before you come, so that you can see how you can help us. You can help us by rendering your skills and knowledge in our skills development program, donating some cash or gear, or just by climbing with us.
So thanks, Ed, for that. And that brings up a really good point about how people can get involved with Memphis Rocks and Climb Malawi. Definitely follow the organizations on social media, support them and see what they're doing there. Obviously, cash is king. If you can make a donation, however small, it's really helpful to them. It goes directly to helping people in those communities. So definitely, reach out, connect with them, follow them. Tyler, is there anything that you wanted to add with regard to, the message that you'd like to share with the world about Climb Malawi, things that you want people to take forward, knowing about your work and what you're doing?
I think we've hit a lot of the highlights already, but I will say that, it's why I'm so excited to have this conversation with the guys from Memphis Rocks is I think, at one level we're essentially trying to do the same thing, and we're through a donation-based climbing gym with all these other extra programs and services, we're trying to serve a community. We've chosen climbing as the tool to do that. John and the guys at Memphis Rocks are doing that in one of the richest countries in the world, and one of the poorest communities in one of the richest countries in the world, and we're trying to do it in one of the poorest countries in the world, and seeing a lot of community transformation. And I think that these could be models to be replicated in other parts of the world and other communities with proper support, because climbing gyms don't just pop out of the ground. They require an upfront capital, but I think that once that's in place, the community itself can actually sustain the operations, but we need help getting started. Everything we've done is through crowdsource GoFundMe, because as a foreign NGO, we can't get grants that are for USA or European organizations. So anything people can do to help us kind of grow, our community can sustain and be transformed.
Thank you. That leads me to kind of like one final question for you all. And, you know, as a part of participating in today, the North Face is contributing money to your organizations. I'd just be stoked to share, you know, if you have any plans for that, or what existing programs or even new programs or ideas do you have in the cooker that, you know, you need capital for. John, do you want to field that one?
Yeah. So we're not necessarily going to use that money for new programs. We're kind of extended on everything that we're doing at the moment. So it's going to basic operations. Like I said earlier, service costs money. So it's going to be going to payroll. So we can afford to have folks out there handing out free food, free hygiene packs, like everything, and hand sanitizer. Like I said, it all costs money, and this is going straight into the pot.
Thanks, John. Malik, did you have anything you wanted to add or anything otherwise?
Yes. I just want to say that at Memphis Rock, climbing is what we use to get people's attention. We are from Memphis, Tennessee, and in Memphis, St. Jude is the leading children's research hospital in the world, where no children will have to pay to get treated for cancer. And, you know, you see a child with cancer is bad, we want to heal that. What we're trying to heal is a societal cancer that's not as prevalent and not as aware to the public as others. We use climbing to get people in there and to keep the resources flowing. But like when COVID hit us all, we took a backseat as a climbing gym and understood that our number one, that we operate in an underserved community and that they would be hit hardest by COVID. So like we take our resources and give them to the community, where we handed out 200 free sack lunches every day. We had fresh food, produce boxes, and to this day we've handed out over 4,000 pounds of fresh food to our neighborhood. And all that is able to do through our donors. We're not able to pull that out of our own pockets. And I just completely urge that, you know, everybody can get a little that looks a lot. St. Jude raised over $1 billion last year, and their average donor is just $10. And I'm just like, we spend $10 on frivolous things every day. And I just want to, you know, encourage people to look for something. Because the end of the world, we always thought it was going to be like a doomsday bunker, and you go hide out and have your resources to yourself. The end of the world was, hey, I'm low on toilet paper, can I have some of yours? And it's all of us having to work within each other if we're going to get through this and continue to thrive. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, brother. That was beautiful. And I really appreciate that you brought up St. Jude and COVID. I mean, St. Jude, when I visited last year, we got a tour. It seemed like such a crucial component of the Memphis community. And I'm glad that you brought it up. And also, obviously, COVID has been such a difficult aspect this year. So thanks for raising those two things, Malik. Tyler, do you have any sort of thoughts and plans for the money that the North Face is going to contribute to Climb Malawi? Do you have anything new that you want to do, or is it sort of similar, like, you know, things that you're running right now are expensive enough and you're just trying to like keep the program going?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief because I know we're out of time. But obviously, keeping living wages for our staff during COVID, when a lot of the foreign workers who were financing things have left. We're also, you know, we haven't finished all the construction. We got the climbing wall built, but we'd like to build kind of a community center for a community library and internet access and things like that. But probably the first thing that we're talking about is a minibus that'll enable more trips to the crag for people who don't have vehicles.
Cool. Well, friends, thanks so much for participating today. I really enjoyed this conversation and just being with you all. I can't wait to just have this live, forever on the internet, and be able to have people reference the good work that you guys have done already, and to continue this work. So big thanks to you all.